To take their seat, please. We'll get started. Well, good morning. I just want to start by saying how nice it is to see everybody back in person. Those 2 years that we didn't do this in person was certainly difficult for us. There's something to be said for seeing the family coming up here to put those flowers in rather than one of us. So it's really nice to see everybody back. So family survivors, Governor Sununu, New Hampshire guests and friends, good morning. My name is Kevin Jordan. I am the chief of the New Hampshire Fish and Game Law Enforcement Division, and it's also my distinct personal honor to serve as the president of the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Association. And on behalf of that association, I would like to welcome you all to the 30th annual New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Ceremony. We hope that you had an opportunity to enjoy the musical selections played by our nationally acclaimed Londonderry Marching Lancers Band that joins us each and every year under the direction this year of Serge Bolio. And I would now ask that we all stand, please, for the opening procession and the presentation of the colors to begin today's ceremony.
order. Whew.
Please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem by Olivia Teslis.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Olivia. Please be seated for the reading of the poem for Old Glory presented to us this morning by Corporal Craig Emery of the Merrimack County Department of Corrections.
Good morning. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutes of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, truth, honor, and justice. I stand for freedom. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer, and I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am loved, and I am feared. I fly in silent watch over the courageous men and women of law enforcement as they protect and serve as the guardians of our communities. I have fought every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, the deserts of Africa, the cane fields of the Philippines, the rice paddies and jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and a score of places long forgotten by all, but those who were there with me. I was there. I led my soldiers. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in but my Marines cheered me, and I was proud. And even today, I fight alongside the brave men and women who serve this great nation in support of wars around the world. I've been soiled, burned, and torn and trampled on the streets of countries that I have helped to set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is by those with which I have served, in battle it hurts, but I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the new frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I have been a silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips to be used for bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother or father at the graveside of their fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I wave. Dear God, long may I wave.
So I want to thank Sergeant Craig Emery and apologize as introducing him as a corporal. I did not know he had been promoted, so congratulations. Please forgive me, I am old. I will not make that mistake again, Sergeant. I would once again this morning, we're fortunate to have Chaplain Gerald Gonzalo with us, the chaplain of the Londonderry Police Department. I would now ask you to please stand and give your attention to the chaplain as he offers our opening prayer.
Let us pray. Lord, we are gathered here today on this solemn occasion, at this solemn site, with family, friends, and fellow officers to remember our fallen. This is a place of remembrance for our loved ones lost in the line of duty. The names of the fallen that will be read are remembered as beloved officers, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, mothers and fathers. They have left an indelible mark on those who love them, those they served with, and the communities in which they protected. We are also reminded that there is no routine day for law enforcement officers, and that these brave few stand in the gap for those who cannot protect or help themselves. All of our law enforcement officers are God's ministers of justice and peacekeepers. Today, we remember that those who are sworn to protect and serve have chosen a life of selfless service. Therefore, O Lord, we ask as we gather for your blessing on this service and all those that are present here today. In your most holy name we pray. Amen.
Family survivors, Governor Sununu, the New Hampshire Attorney General John Formella, United States Attorney Jane Young, Senator Maggie Hassan, Senator Jean Shaheen, Congressman Chris Pappas, Senate President Chuck Morse, Speaker of our House Sherman Packard, and distinguished guests. Thank you for participating in the 30th Annual New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Ceremony. Today, Governor Sununu has it designated as the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Day, a day for us to pause and reflect on the contributions of all law enforcement officers. Governor Sununu has also ordered our New Hampshire state flag to fly at half-staff throughout this day in remembrance of these fallen heroes who are honored on our memorial wall. Governor Sununu is the 82nd and current governor of the state of New Hampshire. He was elected as our governor on 2016. He was sworn into office on January 5th of 2017. Currently serving in his third term, Governor Sununu has worked to maintain New Hampshire's high quality of life as one of the safest, healthiest, and livable states in the nation. Governor Sununu is also the youngest state governor currently serving in the United States. Prior to becoming elected as New Hampshire's 82nd governor, Governor Sununu served for 3 terms as an executive council member representing the 3rd District. Governor Sununu has a strong business background, serving as the chief executive officer of the Waterville Valley Ski Resort in Waterville Valley. And prior to this business venture, he was the owner and director of Sununu Enterprises, a family-owned and operated business and strategic consulting group located in Exeter, New Hampshire. The law enforcement endorsements Governor Sununu received during his past campaigns underscore his continued commitment towards supporting the New Hampshire law enforcement community, and he will assist us in keeping Granite Staters safe. Example of this commitment would include Governor Sununu's veto of the New Hampshire Death Penalty Repeal Act and the governor's past effort to create a youth drug treatment center within the state of New Hampshire. Early in his tenure as governor, he created programs called the Doorway and the Recovery Friendly Workplace Initiative, both of which have become national models for the prevention, treatment, and recovery from substance abuse disorders, improving results for the citizens of our state. As a result of those efforts led by our governor in 2021, New Hampshire was one of just 4 states that was successful in reducing drug overdose deaths. New Hampshire needs a leader in the corner office who will put all politics aside to address the challenges we all face today. We live in ever more dangerous times, and it is comforting to know we have a governor who is committed to support and who has shown great respect to the law enforcement and first responders along with their families within our state. This governor is committed and invested in the state of New Hampshire. We all recognize and respect the ultimate sacrifices that these officers inscribed on this beautiful monument behind me have made for the safety of our New Hampshire citizens. It is just as important for all to recognize and respect the unimaginable sacrifices of the families and friends of these brave officers that were made and endured by all of you as survivors. I am very confident when I tell you that Governor Sununu does recognize and respect your sacrifice. He fully understands you have suffered tremendous losses, and he is committed to the health and the well-being of our citizens, the safety of our communities, and all first responders in the future of our state. Governor Sununu has graciously accepted our invitation to provide our keynote address here today at the annual 30th Annual Memorial Ceremony. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to present to you the Governor of the state of New Hampshire, His Excellency Chris Sununu.
Well, good morning. Please sit. Please, please. That was quite an intro. I appreciate that, Colonel. Well, it's great to see everybody. That's a tough day. There's no doubt about it. But it is great to be able to come back and to hold a ceremony like this that is really important. I think we all recognize that. We're all here. We get it. It is incredibly important, especially given over the past couple of years we haven't been able to gather like this to pay tribute that we all want to do. So it is just wonderful to actually be standing before you. You know, we're going to hear the word sacrifice and commitment, loss. I mean, that's what a lot of the focus of today is on, and what that sacrifice really is, not just for those who put on a badge every day in whatever branch of law enforcement they may be from, but that sacrifice that the families make themselves every single day, whether you're active, whether you're here in memory of a lost loved one, a friend, a family member, whatever it might be. And really to say thank you. I think that's the big thing I always come back to, right? Showing gratitude, even in the toughest of times. And it's crazy times still, right? Even post-COVID, we thought everything would kind of get back to normal, and it has for the most part. But there's still angst out there and political strife and all of that negativity you see on the news. But at the core of what we are here in the Granite State is that live free or die spirit, and the core of that is gratitude. It's about saying thank you to everyone involved, the team effort, the collective effort, the community effort that it really takes so often to be successful in so many aspects of our lives, given what the 21st century brings. Aspects of our family and our community, public safety, awareness, the responsibility we hold for our families. Today we pay tribute to all of those who have given themselves in the line of duty. Today we obviously are going to pay special tribute to Staff Sergeant Jesse Sherrill, whose name has been added to this wall this year. His death unspeakably has had a very profound impact on all those throughout state government, throughout the Granite State, and obviously especially to members of his law enforcement family. We also pause to remember Officer Rory Bohannon. Rory passed away just very recently on May 10th while serving. He was assigned at the Hillsborough Deering Middle School, and Rory passed away. And remembering him and his family and saying thank you to that sacrifice that was made. The tragedy of Sergeant Sherrill's death and that of Officer Bohannon, they're a reminder to never forget that commitment made by our state's fallen heroes and forever memorialized right here on the State House grounds. As the Colonel mentioned, this week I did proclaim, as we often do, Law Enforcement Memorial Week here in New Hampshire. And again, we're a state of community. I remind folks of that all the time. I get to travel across the country a lot as governor, and I talk to other governors and see how other places do it. And I don't want to say that we do it better than everybody else, but we do. We do, sorry. And when I talk about doing it better, I talk about what we talk about, like local control and community, right? It's not just about a big government system and we'll, have the final say on everything. We take a responsibility, each of us, what our role is going to be in our community, how we're going to give back. And people have heard me talk about this a lot. You have to give back some way, right? You got to find that skill set. Maybe it's running for office. Maybe it's becoming a school teacher. Maybe it's saying I'm going to join the academy and join law enforcement in some way, in some branch, maybe local law enforcement or the troopers, the sheriff's department, right? Conservation, whatever it is. You have to find your path of community and commitment. And we definitely do that here a lot more than in other places. And so what that means is we know those that are impacting our lives that much more. We know our firefighters, we know our law enforcement officers, we know our teachers, we know those that are really impacting our communities because we have that responsibility to engage with them at all these different levels. And so when we talk about this memorial at a state level, what we're really also talking about is the individuals. These are the family members sitting before us today. But a lot of us knew them on a first name basis. A lot of us knew those family members in one way or another and how they impacted us. Now, it's a memorial, so it tends, I get it, it tends to be sad. We remember that loss. I have to tell you, while I was sitting here, I was looking at Trooper Sherrill's family, and I started to smile. I have to be honest. So I was thinking about that connection. Like, look, it's a cloudy day, right? But believe me, the sun's there, right? The sun is up there. And on a day like this, when it can be very solemn, we have to remember all those sunny moments that the individuals on this wall, the individuals sitting here, the individuals in the back with a shield, all those sunny moments they brought to us. I was thinking about those words, protect and serve, right? The protect is the obvious, if you will, and we're really good at that in New Hampshire. I don't know if a lot of you know, we were just ranked #1 in the country in terms of public safety and correction. So when it comes to protection, we knock it out of the park. You guys knock it out of the park. The men and women here do just a phenomenal job. I mean, to be ranked #1 in the great country of the United States, to stand above all else, to be that gold standard, that's really a point of pride. But I talk about those sunny moments, right? It's that second word, serve. Serve. Serve isn't about just the service, again, up here. It's about what you're doing as to an individual, what the opportunity you're bringing to an individual. And law enforcement nowadays is so different. It's a shoulder to cry on. It's understanding in the opioid crisis. It's being mental health professionals on an emergency notice. It's responding to something in a school or something happening in a child's life. And given all those pressures that we have nowadays that didn't exist 10 years ago, right? Are we training to that? Are we skilling? So much of what these men and women do can't be trained. It's just instinctive about community and that individual. And I have to be, even in the toughest, cloudiest of days, they know they have to be that little bit of sun in somebody's life for that moment. And that really is, I think, how we separate ourselves. The story, I don't know if I've told this story publicly. I think maybe once or twice, but during the height of COVID, there were some feisty characters that would come to my house and protest, right? People might have seen those stories. And it got a little aggressive, and so for the first time, there were some troopers that had to be at my house overnight. And I felt really bad about the situation, but it was a really tense time. And so I don't have many skills in the house, but one of my skills is baking. I can't cook, but I can bake. So I would bake cookies every once in a while. And I'd bake some cookies, and I'd bring them out to the troopers. You know, they're sitting in my driveway all night long, away from their families. I just felt bad. I felt really bad. So one night I'm on the phone, because it was really late. It was dark. Well, maybe it was late. It was very cold out, I remember. And when I'm on the phone, I pace a lot. So I'm walking around the house, and I had put some cookies in, and I kind of had forgotten about them. But As I finish my phone call, I come back into the garage, and the tray of cookies is there on the back of my wife's car in the garage. I'm like, oh, great, Valerie brought the cookies out, so I'd remember to bring them the cookies. So I throw a bunch of them right there on a little, I took the wax paper, whatever, and I rushed out, and there's Trooper Cheryl. And there were some folks across the street as well, and I gave them some cookies, and I gave them some cookies. And I come back into the house, and Valerie's pulling cookies, more cookies out of the oven. And I said, but I just brought them the cookies. And she said, you left them in the oven. Those were burnt to a crisp. She goes, you didn't give those to those guys, did you? I said, yeah, I did. I felt really bad, but it was dark. I couldn't see. I thought she was like bringing them out for me. So anyway, I get the good cookies now, and now I go back down to the car, and Jesse's there. And I said, I'm really sorry I gave you these. He goes, oh, Governor, they were absolutely delicious. They were, don't even think, no, they were delicious. I didn't even notice. And I thought, well, that was very nice of him to say, given that he's sitting in the middle of my driveway at 2 in the morning or whatever it was going to be for him. And look, that was my small sunny moment. And I thought, man, they never complain, right? No matter what you're asking them to do, they'll always eat a burnt cookie and tell you it was delicious. But those little moments that we have are really what separate us. And why, when we do an event like this, everybody comes together. Right? It wasn't just family members that show up. It's members of law enforcement from all over the state. We have our students over here. Hey, how are you guys? We have students visiting the State House. Another story. I'm sorry, I'm just going to go on a little bit. I get excited on a day like this. So the fact that we have this memorial right here, right? We have our fourth graders that visit the State House all the time. It's super cool, and now that COVID's done, they're really coming back. And this is often one of their stops. And my office, for those of you who don't know, is up in the corner over there. And, when I'm trying to figure things out, or I'm confused, or the legislature's doing whatever, and I'm trying to figure out how we're going to deal with that, I often will just kind of look out the window, and I tend to look at this memorial. And I can't tell you, so often the fourth graders are coming here. They're making this one of their stops on their tour. And that's another huge reminder. The reason I bring it up is it isn't just about today, right? I'm a dad. I got 2 high schoolers. I got a 9-year-old, right? What am I going to do? What are you going to do? What are we all going to do when we leave here? As a reminder of what this commitment and sacrifice really means. What it means to these families, knowing that every day when their loved one walks out the door, there's a risk they don't come home. And that's very real, and we feel that a lot today. But how are we imparting that type of commitment and what that means to the next generation? It's so important, now more than ever, for a whole variety of reasons, right? It's so obvious. And what it means to not just say we support law enforcement, we support those that are going that extra mile, giving everything. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to live it and do it and remind ourselves of it. Engage with our family on that idea and that commitment. It's so important for that next generation. And so I guess that's the takeaway, not to give folks homework on a day like this, on a day that can be solemn, that can seem a little cloudy, but find that sunny point. Note that sun's coming through that cloud at some point today. It is. Find that sunny point for yourselves. That interaction you've had with someone in law enforcement. And take that home today and say, what are we going to do to make sure that this event doesn't just last, it gets bigger, and that understanding of commitment gets stronger, and that heart of the live free or die spirit is really what we're all about. And that's a big piece of it. Look, I can't thank everyone enough for coming out. It really does mean a lot. It means a lot to these families. It means a lot to the men and women here. But let's remember, this isn't one day a year. 365 days a year. This is what we have to hold in our hearts, and this is the responsibility that we have, not just to say thank you and remember those on this wall, but to carry it with us forward, back to our communities, back to that level of community commitment. And that's what keeps us number one in the country. That's what keeps us the gold standard for everyone else. Thank you guys very much. It is just such an honor to be before you, the men and women, the families that are here. Let's live up to for the rest of us, let's live up to that responsibility that we hold. Let's take it with us. Let's keep building.
Thank you, Governor Sununu. The New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums have been performing musical selections for the memorial service faithfully for more than 2 decades now. The New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums were formed following the tragic line of duty death of New Hampshire State Police Sergeant James Noyce in 1994. In December of that year, several dedicated individuals from various police departments joined together for what would be the band's first practice held in the city of Manchester. After many practice rehearsals, the band made their official debut right here, playing for the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Service back in 1996. Since this time, this band has played at every police officer line of duty death funeral in the state of New Hampshire. It is now my great pleasure to introduce to you the New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums. Thank you, New Hampshire Police Association Pipes and Drums. It is my pleasure to represent the Memorial Association as the Master of Ceremonies for today's service. The New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Association is made up of a very small group of dedicated and hardworking individuals who work throughout the year to preserve and honor this beautiful memorial behind me and to ensure that the families and friends of our fallen heroes understand and believe that the New Hampshire law enforcement community will never forget the sacrifices these officers and their families have made. I'm very proud to call the members of this association my friends, and I want to thank each and every one of them for their efforts in keeping this monument and this annual memorial service continuing each year. Today is the one day of the year when we invite the public to join us in remembering and honoring those sacrifices made by these law enforcement officers and corrections officers who have died in the line of duty. We must also reflect on the contributions of all living law enforcement officers and corrections officers and pray for their continued safety. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the brave contributions of all fire and emergency medical responders who continue their commitment and sacrifice to serve the citizens of the state of New Hampshire and who place their lives on the line each and every day. Today, we honor as heroes the 52 New Hampshire law enforcement officers and corrections officers whose names appear on the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Wall. Beginning with the first officer, Deputy Sheriff John S. Walker, Sr. in 1886, to our most recent tragic event where we lost another true hero of New Hampshire law enforcement. That would be Staff Sergeant Jesse E. Sherrill of the New Hampshire State Police, whose name was recently added to the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Wall this past week. Staff Sergeant Jesse E. Sherrill began his law enforcement career as a full-time police officer in 2001 with the Hooksett Police Department. In December of 2002, Jesse was hired by the New Hampshire State Police, and he was assigned to the Troop F barracks serving the citizens up in the North Country. In June of 2014, he accepted an opportunity to transfer to the Troop A barracks in southern New Hampshire, bringing him back closer to his childhood home of Barrington, New Hampshire. During a successful near 20-year career, Jesse accepted promotions, first to sergeant, then to assistant troop commander position as staff sergeant at Troop A. During his entire career, Sergeant Sherrill was known and respected as a dedicated public servant. Staff Sergeant Sherrill made the ultimate sacrifice as a result of his cruiser being struck from behind during a traffic accident on October 28, 2021, while working along the highway on Interstate 95 in the city of Portsmouth. At the time of this tragic accident, Staff Sergeant Sherrill was working to protect the highway construction workers while they worked in the roadway, making necessary road improvements. When Staff Sergeant Sherrill was not protecting New Hampshire citizens, he could be found snowmobiling in the North Country or thriving at something that he dearly loved. That was being a loving and dedicated father and husband in roles such as dance dad and a baseball coach. To the Sherrill family, Jesse's wife, Nicole, his children, who I met this morning, Peyton and Quinn, you will always be in our thoughts and in our prayers. We are all so very sorry for your loss. Staff Sergeant Jesse Sherrill's name will be read as part of our Roll of Honor today. Before we proceed with the ceremony, we want to express our appreciation to those that have made this day possible. On the inside cover of that 2022 program is a list of people and organizations that have contributed or continue to contribute financially or provided equipment or skills that all serve to make this ceremony possible each year. We would like you to acknowledge all of their generosity and their support. And most importantly, we would like to acknowledge all of you who attended today, along with each survivor of our fallen heroes listed on the wall. We would also like to thank everyone for your continued assistance and contributions to the Memorial and Perpetual Care Fund. Without your generous contributions each year, we would not be here to honor our fallen heroes. The New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Association lost a charter member with the passing of Chief John Kern Sr. on May 11th of 2022. Chief Kern was 82 years old at the time of his passing. He had a full military career serving in the Marine Corps beginning in 1957 and then continuing until he retired from the Marine Reserves in 1993, a span of nearly 35 years. Chief Kern worked in the field of law enforcement for approximately 37 years as a loyal and dedicated police officer. His career in law enforcement began in the state of Massachusetts, continuing into Maine and finally landing in New Hampshire until he retired as the chief of police for the town of Meredith, New Hampshire in 2004. Chief Kern was one of the founding members of the New Hampshire Law Enforcement Memorial Association. In the early days, he was instrumental in getting this sacred site designed and built, and he worked with a small dedicated group of people to help create the ceremony that we're all attending today. At the celebration of the 25th anniversary of this memorial ceremony, we honored the work Chief Kern had done for the creation of this association. I had the opportunity to speak with John on that time, and we shared our thoughts and beliefs on how important this memorial was to all of us. And Chief Kern felt very strongly that honoring these families and these fallen heroes was the most important thing he could do as a law enforcement officer. He was dedicated to all of you, and he worked behind the scenes very hard for all of us to get this memorial built and to hold this ceremony each year. I am quite sure when I tell you that Chief Kern would not want us to even mention him today, but I could not ignore all he has done for this memorial and all he has done for the law enforcement community in the state of New Hampshire. To say that he will be missed would be an understatement. Chief John Kern, thank you for your friendship and support, and thank you for all that you have done for our family survivors and the Law Enforcement Memorial. At this time, I would ask Chief Osgood and Chief Hobecki, along with the floral assistants, to bring the wreath and the flowers to the front of the tent. Now comes the most solemn moment that culminates today's program, the reading of the Roll of Honor and the placing of the flowers on the memorial wreath. As the names are read, a member of the family, if present, should stand and walk towards this center aisle. There you will be given a flower to add to the wreath in memory of your loved one. An escorting officer will come to your location and lead you down to the floral display. For those family members who are unable to attend today, or for those who no longer have living relatives, an officer from that department or another department will step forward and place a flower on this wreath. I would then ask you to return to your seats by either of the end aisles. After a flower is placed for each officer listed on our memorial wall, we will place one flower in memory of all officers who died outside the line of duty. We will add another flower for the New Hampshire officers who died in the line of duty outside of the state of New Hampshire. One flower will be placed in remembrance of those soldiers who continue to fight so bravely and have given their lives to protect our freedoms. One flower will be placed in recognition of the daily sacrifices of all officers. One flower will be placed in recognition of those officers injured in the line of duty. And finally, one flower will be placed in recognition of all of you family survivors. Those of us working in law enforcement in the state of New Hampshire today serve under the direction of a new New Hampshire Attorney General. New Hampshire's Attorney General John Formella was nominated by Governor Sununu and subsequently confirmed by our Executive Council members. Attorney General Formella was then sworn into his office on April 22nd, 2021, and he now leads the New Hampshire Department of Justice as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer and Prosecutor for the state of New Hampshire. Attorney General Formella has a distinguished law career in the state. He has served as the legal counsel to the governor on all significant legal issues and litigation affecting the state of New Hampshire. His legal experience and expertise played a significant role in the development and implementation of New Hampshire's criminal justice reforms initiatives put into place this past year. The statewide response to the opioid crisis, as well as COVID-19 responses that were required for the pandemic. Attorney Formella began his legal career within private practice at Pierce Atwood, which is one of the largest law firms in northern New England. And in 2019, Attorney Formella was recognized by the New Hampshire Union Leader as one of the New Hampshire's 10 young professionals to watch within the New Hampshire Seacoast region. Attorney General John Formella came to us here in New Hampshire as a gifted attorney who is highly principled and committed to always do the right thing and to the highest professional standards. New Hampshire is extremely fortunate to have such a knowledgeable and dedicated Attorney General serving as the Chief of Law Enforcement for the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. It is now my honor and privilege to introduce you to the New Hampshire Attorney General, John Formella, and ask him to please join me here at the podium to read our Roll of Honor.
Deputy Sheriff John S. Walker, Sr., Cheshire County Sheriff's Department. Officer George E. Prey, Dover Police Department. Officer Charles H. Dolliff, Laconia Police Department. Deputy Sheriff Charles E. Smith, Stratford County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Henry McAllister, Manchester Police Department. Inspector William M. Mower, Manchester Police Department. Assistant Marshal John McDonough, Dover Police Department. Officer Albert L. Colson, Exeter Police Department. Officer James Roach, Nashua Police Department. Sheriff-elect Henry M. Levitt, Carroll County Sheriff's Department. Trooper Raymond Elliott, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Andrew T. Malloy, Lancaster Police Department. Trooper Harold B. Johnson, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Fred T. Toll, Colebrook Police Department. Officer Michael Latvis, Nashua Police Department. Lieutenant Ivan H. Hayes, New Hampshire State Police. Officer George F. Garceau, Hillsborough County Corrections. Officer Joseph H. Platt, Northumberland Police Department. Officer Edward C. Graziano, Nashua Police Department. Conservation Officer William O. Mooney, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Conservation Officer Gary E. Waterhouse, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Assistant Chief Louis A. Sheets, Farmington Police Department. Officer Robert F. Devoid, Berlin Police Department. Officer Dorman O. Wheelock, Berlin Police Department. Officer Jerome O. Pyatt, Gorham Police Department. Corrections Officer Robert C. Prescott, Rockingham County Department of Corrections. Conservation Officer James H. Clark, New Hampshire Fish and Game Department. Acting Chief Armand J. Roussel, Nashua Police Department. Chief Charles S.B. Knowles, Seabrook Police Department. Lieutenant Robert Hollis, Jr., Durham Police Department. Sergeant Paul G. Broder, Berlin Police Department. Officer Ralph W. Miller, Manchester Police Department. Trooper Richard F. Champy, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Donald R. Kowalski, Somersworth Police Department. Supervisor William E. O'Neill, Sr., Jaffrey Police Department. Chief James H. Collins, Hanover Police Department. Sergeant Thomas C. Kelly, Derry Police Department. Trooper Gary Parker, New Hampshire Police Department, State Police. Trooper Joseph E. Gertie, New Hampshire State Police. Chief Ralph C. Brooks, Antrim Police Department. Deputy Sheriff Donald E. Callahan, Merrimack County Sheriff's Department. Sergeant James S. Noyes, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Melvin A. Ketty, East Kingston Police Department. Lieutenant Donald Eaton, Auburn Police Department. Trooper Leslie G. Lord, New Hampshire State Police. Trooper Scott Phillips, New Hampshire State Police. Officer Jeremy T. Sharon, Epsom Police Department. Officer Michael L. Briggs, Manchester Police Department. Corporal N. Bruce McKay III, Franconia Police Department. Chief Michael P. Maloney, Greenland Police Department. Officer Stephen J. Arkell, Brentwood Police Department. Staff Sergeant Jesse E. Sherrill, New Hampshire State Police. One flower will be placed in memory of all officers who died outside the line of duty. One flower will be placed for the New Hampshire officers who died in the line of duty outside of the state of New Hampshire. One flower will be placed in remembrance of those soldiers who continue to fight so bravely and have given their lives to protect our freedoms. One flower will be placed in recognition of the daily sacrifices of all living officers. One flower will be placed in recognition of those officers injured in the line of duty. And one flower will be placed in recognition of all family survivors.
Please stand for the conclusion of the Roll of Honor ceremony with a rifle salute, the playing of taps, and Amazing Grace. Please remain standing while Olivia joins us one more time at the podium to sing today's closing hymn.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, wide with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Take them off. Thank you, Olivia. Now, if you'd like to take your seats, we'll enjoy a quick musical selection from the Londonderry Marching Lancers High School Band. In closing, once again, I just wanted to remind you the Memorial Committee has designed and created law enforcement memorial shirts, challenge coins, and memorial lapel pins. The shirts, the coins, and the pins were developed to honor each officer, and all the proceeds from the sales of these items are utilized in the upkeep and maintenance of our memorial wall, as well as supporting this annual ceremony. If anyone is interested in making a financial contribution or purchasing any of these items, please see a committee member in the reception area at the luncheon or at the luncheon reception after today's ceremony. I would also like to extend to each and every one of you to join us, an invitation to join us for a light luncheon being provided at the Concord Community Center, located right up at the end of the street next to the Concord Police Department. There's a free lunch there, and it's very good food, so please join us. So I want to leave everyone with one final thought today. Poor is the nation that has no heroes. Shameful is the nation that has heroes and forgets them. So thank you for joining us today to honor our New Hampshire law enforcement fallen heroes and their families. And I would now ask the New Hampshire motor units, followed by the Police Association, pipes and drums, to lead the honor guards in retreat. Thank you all for coming today.